Is camera angle is too high? Look like yes. I'm sorry, I'm not going to change it because I have some nasty level 5 shoulder pain. I don't know what caused that, and so I can't move. Just bear with me. So today in this video, I'm going to take you through a journey how you can select a UI framework, how you can choose a UI framework for your project. Here I'm not going to compare Angular versus React versus Vue.js or something like that, but I'm going to explain you what you need to take from that and how you choose a framework. Because I have seen most of tech leads and most of even architects, they're struggling to choose a UI framework for their project. Sometimes they based on what people says, sometimes they based on the trends, and sometimes people they based on some facts which is not logical to their project. So therefore, I'm going to take you through a journey how to choose a UI framework and how to select what. And when people go with the trend, I'm going to say no, don't ever do that, because I don't know whether you're old enough to learn this. Because there was a framework called Struts. Struts came into this world with the Java world, with the Java EE release. People jump into the Struts because Struts was so easy compared to Java EE. They learned Struts and people got high demand, very high salary. Very soon, Strut release 2.0, they change upside down. So then you need to relearn the Struts again. And so people gave up it. Then Spring came. So therefore, don't go with the trends unless otherwise it's fish to you. Okay, so the usual question is people ask, my app is app taking huge load, or it's expecting tons of requests per second, and what is the UI framework I should choose? I would say that question doesn't make any sense, because doesn't matter if you have a million requests per second, your UI don't feel it, because your UI will be one of that million, right? Okay, so the request load doesn't matter, but there is something called first content load time. That is a little bit matter for your application, because it's for user experience. Decades ago, even you have to wait for 1 minute or even 2 minutes until your page load, people don't care about it. But if now people don't see the page load within 1 or 2 seconds, people feel bad about it. Probably your customer will lose their customer. So therefore, first content load time is a little bit matter, but how much TP is your backend going to take? It doesn't matter. Right, so now in this journey, let's discuss about Angular versus Angular, React and Vue.js. I'm not going to say versus, because I'm not going to do any comparison. If you want to do the comparison, you can just Google it. They will give you tons of charts and figures and the stats to tell which one is better. But if you stayed with me long enough, you will have known by now, I don't care much about what the stat says. What I need is how it really practically works in my project. That's my concern. Okay. So if you get first framework, Angular very first it came as Angular.js. So people have a confusion between Angular and Angular.js. It's two different guys. It's not same. Okay. They share the same name, but it's like Angular version 1 is Angular.js. We can tell that if you exactly know what you're talking about. Because Angular.js is a JavaScript framework. Angular is a completely TypeScript based framework. So Angular 2.0 is Angular.js? No, it is not. Okay, Angular.js is a JavaScript framework. Angular is an Angular framework. It is a TypeScript-based framework which is developed by Google. First release came on 2016, and ever since it's a very active framework. And now version 14 release, I think a few weeks back. When you compare the Angular is a robust framework. Right? When you have other things to compare, Angular is a framework. If you did not learn any front-end framework yet, I would say go and start with the Angular. And if you're starting with Angular, I have 2 videos done, everything what you need to know about Angular. Right? So go and watch those videos. It will be in my playlist, and go and watch those videos, and that will help you to get into the Angular. Why I am saying so? Right. If you compare the biggest competitors, Angular and the React is a library. while Angular is a complete framework. Angular follow a architecture or a pattern called MVVM, Model View Model Pattern. If you take the React don't have it. Also, Angular carrying an architecture called modules, components architecture. So that way you can clearly segregate your complex logic. We can use any design pattern, any coding patterns. You can use the services, and also you can use component to express the data or present the data while you are hiding all your complex logic within the services. So Angular is a full-fledged framework. It has its own way how to do things, how to use interceptors, how to use guards, right? It has its own way, it defined way you to do it. And it lived long enough, so you have enough resources on the free and forums, so you can find solution for any problem you're facing. So if you did not start this front-end journey, I would strongly recommend you to go and start with the Angular. But that being said, I must tell, Angular learning is a little bit hard compared to React and the Vue. Angular, you need to give little engineering skills to learn it. So why I suggest that if you learn React and if you learn Vue.js and now if you go to the Angular, you will never learn Angular because you feel this is so hard. But if you learn Angular first, then you will realize the learning a React and the learning is a Vue is just it's nothing simply, right? Because Angular has all those fundamental things you need to do. When you take the React actually initially came before the Angular. As I remember, React released around 2013. It's a library come from the Facebook. So React really doesn't do much governing. You can do whatever you want with the React. And that being said, React has a concept called virtual DOM. So with that, it's a very fast rendering, and when you can get the DOM updates very fast compared to Angular. And also, you need to understand that React use something called Redux to handle the states, but Redux is a pattern. Redux is not something owned by React, right? Redux is a pattern. Unfortunately, this library comes as a Redux. The Redux has a pattern, and Angular also implement the Redux in a way called NGRX. So both has this state management, but people says is React with that's easy, but I don't know. For me, it's both same. So the React is that, right? React is a library which you don't have a strong opinion how to do things. You can do the way you want, and you can simply define it. You can use the libraries, and you can use other JavaScript libraries, and you can build your app freely you want. But if you are looking for a very large scale project, I don't recommend go with the React, because since it doesn't have opinion way of doing it, your multiple developers will do things what they want, and end of the day, your code base will be really mess unless you really do the governing. So now when come to the Vue.js, Vue also originally came before Angular. As I remember, Vue came on in 2014. I don't remember the Vue.js name with the initial developer name, little bit involved with this name. And when you go with the Vue.js, it's like React, right? You don't have a very strong foundation or opinion how to do things. But when you compare the speed, the first content loading speed and kind of a thing, Vue and React cannot compare with the Angular, because they have a definite win. Because if you take Angular, now it's version 14, because of these versions and the features, they have a heavy core. So, I mean, they have their own way to doing this LVY compiler, and we call Livy compiler. And they have their own way to process that and trying to compress and reduce the code base, reduce the library size, what is running on the browser. But still, clear winner is React and React or Vue.js compared to Angular if you're really considering only the fast loading. So now some people like to go with the most popular frameworks, right? They don't compare about the features and everything, but they tend to go with the most popular. But if you're going with the most popular framework, then clearly it's a Vue.js, because it has highest stars in GitHub, and then it's a React, and then it's Angular. Because Vue.js and React especially, these are so popular within developers, not software engineers, within software developers is so popular because it has a very less learning curve, and I mean you don't have to know so many things to get work with the Vue.js or a React. So it's so popular framework. If you're going with the popular one, go with a React or a Vue.js. So now, most important thing we need to concern when we work on a project, what is the developer's strength? What is our team strength on this framework? So if you really need to teach them, if they need to learn, you need to see what their skills is. Because if you consider these three frameworks, these three, we can say framework, right? Anyway, fine, let's say framework. These three frameworks, React is the easiest framework to learn. It's very easy to learn because, as I said, it's just a basic script. If you just need to know what you want to do, you can do it. And then when you got the Vue.js, it's a bit complex than the React. And when you go to the Angular is complicated to learn because you need to learn all those how to do part. How services work, how at what point services get clean, the data stores, and how the component init and destroy works, and so many things, interceptors, guards. You need to learn so many things. But if you learn this, then you're done. You're really good. That's all. So therefore, please consider what is your team's strength and how capable they are to learn this framework before you choose that. So as a conclusion, as I said before, I'm not going to tell you which framework to use and in your project because it's tightly coupled. It's highly depend on what you're trying to do and what is your audience and what your expectation is. If your expectation is you're actually simple, your expectation is a fast loading and everything, it's a React or a Vue.js to go. But if you're looking for a large application, you have multiple components, you have different pieces of the application. Let's say, for example, you have three pieces. There are separate use base for one piece, and there are separate use base for other part, and there are separate use go for other part. Then such complicated application, I would say go with the Angular because you can use the lazy loading and you can use the component based architecture and you can use the data services, you can use NGRX to make it fast, and you have a tons of options if you go with the framework like Angular if you're looking for a large scale application to develop. But if it's a simple application, go with the React or a Vue. But if you're learning this framework, if you just jump into this front-end journey, let's say you may be a full-stack developer, you are the back-end developer, you want to be a full-stack developer, you want a framework in front-end. Just I would say, go with Angular. It may take a long time to you to learn, but once you learn it, learning a Vue and learning the React would be very, very simple to you. Then, see you in another video. Stay safe. Take care.